Hello and welcome back to Canada Top to Bottom. Today we're talking about studying in Canada, which for some people is something they have always wanted to do, or a way of seeing the world while studying towards a degree at the same time, but for others it is a way into Canada and a means of gaining valuable Canadian experience which will help them get the all-important permanent residence. We ourselves know several people here who came to Canada on a study permit with the goal of applying for PR after graduating, because if you have the finances to do it, a study permit is a way of getting into Canada quickly, rather than starting down the long and often stressful road of an immigration pathway and waiting potentially years for that golden ticket to come.
Of course, the downside of a study permit over an immigration program is that you will arrive in Canada as a temporary resident rather than a permanent one. However, with a study permit, you can both work and study at the same time, and depending on the length of your course and your field of study, once you've graduated, you can apply for a postgraduate work permit and gain the Canadian work experience required to apply for permanent residence. All of this whilst living and settling in Canada, getting to know your town or city, making friends, and feeling at home.
One thing to bear in mind is that you are by no means guaranteed to be issued a study permit. Not everyone who applies automatically receives approval. In fact, the eligibility criteria are very strict, and applicants are rejected every single day for reasons such as finances, ties to their home country, or the IRCC is not satisfied with their reason for studying in Canada. For example, you must provide a convincing argument that you will return to your home country after your study course is finished. So, if you have no significant ties to your home country, it may be deemed that you have no intention of returning there and may plan to stay in Canada.
Another example, if you have 15 years experience in one profession and are applying for a study permit to do something completely different, you may be rejected because the official does not believe you are coming to study for legitimate reasons. You need to convince the immigration official that the course you intend to study in Canada will be beneficial and contribute to your professional life and career in your home country. But having said that, a rejection does not mean the definitive end. If you can address the reasons given for rejection and satisfy the immigration official, you will be granted your visa.
We didn't come to Canada initially as students, but we did arrive as visitors, and were here on a visitor status for 8 months before we received our permanent resident status. So we were in a similar position. In those 8 months, we had built up a lot of connections, both socially and professionally, and by the time we received our PR, we really felt at home here. For many people, studying in Canada is a great way to get here quickly and find out more about the country and the lifestyle before fully committing to settling here permanently.
Now, I don't know about you, but when I think of students, 18-year-olds spring to mind. So a common misconception is that there is an age limit to studying in Canada, and many people assume that they are simply too old to apply for a Canadian study permit. Well, we are here to correct this misconception. You are not too old to study in Canada.
There is an age minimum when applying for a study permit. You need to be at least 18 or 19 years old, depending on the Canadian province. But you will be pleased to know that there is absolutely no age limit when applying for a study permit. You can apply at any age, at any point in your career. You may not be approved initially, but rest assured that the age will not be the reason for rejection.
There are a number of factors to consider if you're thinking of studying in Canada. For example, the older you are, the likelihood is that the better your financial situation is, as you may have had many more years to work and save money. And of course, the hope is that the older you get, the more mature you become, although this is not the case for everyone. For a lot of people, choosing what to study when you're still a teenager is an impossible task, and many people feel they made the wrong decision. By the time you reach your 20s or 30s, you may have a much clearer idea of your professional and career goals and be able to make much more informed decisions.
A further worry for some people is that once they have been approved for a study permit and intend to apply for permanent residence after graduating, will there be an age limit on their immigration program? Well, there is more good news here, because the most common immigration pathway used by the vast majority of international students is the Canadian Experience Class, or CEC. This program requires at least 12 months of Canadian work experience and has no age limit. After graduating from an approved institution in Canada, you may be eligible for a postgraduate work permit for anything up to 3 years. During this time, you can gain this required work experience and apply for your permanent residence without ever having to leave the country.
So we hope that has given you some reassurance and inspired you to start looking into studying in Canada, if that's something you may be interested in. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and we'll see you next time.